Welcome. On behalf of all the friars and individuals working within the Franciscan ministries of the St. Barbara province, we welcome you. The province of St. Barbara is led by Father David Ga, Minister Provincial. He is supported by Father Martin Ibarra, Provincial Vicar, and a group of 6 friars called Definitors who are advisors to him. They oversee over 150 friars and 20 ministries in the western United States and Mexico. These ministries care for the spiritual and material needs of others and include social services organizations, retreat centers, parishes, historic sites, and a graduate school of theology. There are other Franciscan provinces that cover the rest of the United States and every continent on Earth except Antarctica. We call our organizations ministries. Our ministries are places of peacemaking, humility, generosity, and are focused on the common good. They exist to serve others. For Franciscans, work is much more than a means to pay the bills. All work is dignified, meaningful, and is a chance for individuals to express their unique talents and gifts. St. Francis told the friars that they should see work as a gift and as a sharing in the creation and service of the human community. As you begin your work with us, we thought we'd answer some of the most commonly asked questions for those new to our ministries. How did the Franciscan movement get started? It started in Italy, in the town of Assisi, where a young man named Francesco lived. He was an unlikely person to start a religious movement. He came from a rich family who owned a cloth business. He liked to party, enjoyed the finer things in life, and was a proud knight. Knighthood was really important to him, but one day, something started to change inside him. The glory of knighthood and the fine clothes and comforts of life became less attractive. What became more attractive was living simply, without possessions, and being among the poor and those on the fringes of society. He wanted to live as Jesus lived, to follow in his footprints. At this point in history, the most shunned people were lepers. Francis was repulsed by them just like everyone else. They had open sores and a horrible stench. People were so scared of contracting leprosy that the lepers were required to live outside of town and wear bells so people would know if they were nearby. But things were continuing to change for Francis, and one day he felt an urge to get off his horse and embrace a leper by the side of the road. This act was another big step in a series of movements that led Francis from a superficial worldview to a deeper, more spiritual one. The way he described the experience was that what was once bitter became sweet. His family was not happy about this new Francis, who wore ragged clothes, gave away possessions, went off for long periods of time to pray, spent time with lepers, and preached about God. St. Francis was doing his own thing, trying to follow Jesus' example, but soon others were attracted to his way of life. As he put it, "The Lord gave me brothers." Francis and these new brothers formed a Catholic religious order of men we call friars. They devoted their lives to following Jesus the way St. Francis did. They live as brothers without distinction of rank, title, or education. Today, they live in communities, in buildings known as friaries, but they work out in the world. They take 3 vows: obedience, poverty, and chastity, which are represented by the 3 knots on the rope belt they wear. Are there any women in the mix? Yes, Claire is a rich and holy young woman from Assisi who was also attracted to the way Francis was living his life. Arrangements were made for her to leave her parents' home and join Francis to take up a new way of life. Her family wasn't happy about that, and her uncles were sent to bring her home. Try as they might, they couldn't budge her. Francis also started a third order for men and women who didn't take religious vows, but who were committed to living out Franciscan values in their daily family and work life. Francis and the brothers weren't monks that stay in one place. They traveled from town to town, cared for the poor, and survived by doing menial work and begging. The way Francis saw it, everything we have is a gift from God, including our personality, skills, and our wealth. Rather than think of these things as our possessions, St. Francis thought we should use what we need of these gifts and share or give the rest away. While Claire and her sisters stayed cloistered and led a contemplative life focused on prayer, other orders of Franciscan sisters emerged who worked out in the world like Francis and his brothers. So, from the beginning, Franciscans included both men and women. Today, St. Francis is one of the most famous saints in church history. He's so significant that current Pope, Pope Francis, chose to take his name. How was my ministry started? All our ministries were started by a friar from the province of St. Barbara. Friars led the ministries and worked within them with other friars and lay people. Friars may continue to lead and work within your ministry, or your ministry may be led on Franciscan principles by a non-friar who we call a layperson. We believe the Franciscan worldview is a gift to society and to the Catholic Church. It is hopeful, inclusive, and focused on serving one another. We ensure that carrying forward the Franciscan tradition is the responsibility of every person working in our ministries today. What if I am not Catholic, or religious, or believe in God? That's not a problem. All kinds of people work in our ministries. We welcome all who seek to build a better world filled with compassion, generosity, and love. The only requirement is that you are a person of goodwill, love the poor, honor our Catholic Franciscan tradition, and that your actions and decisions are consistent with our province mission and Franciscan values. What is the mission? The Franciscan friars proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ in the Franciscan tradition through ministries that serve the poor, marginalized, and those spiritually in need of God's love. Through the ministries of our province, we provide food, shelter, counseling, healing, spiritual direction, education, and a connection for the people of God. We do this through the charism of St. Francis of Assisi and our values of prayer, community, joy, and service. Who is in charge? We have a two-tiered governance system. Since our ministries exist as a ministry of the Franciscan friars, the friars have reserved powers that allow them to make sure ministries stay on the Franciscan track and are financially sustainable. Local boards and ministry leaders make the day-to-day decisions regarding how the mission is carried out and ensure that the ministry follows laws, is financially stable, and has a Franciscan culture. What are some of the things Franciscans believe in? We believe that God is deeply in love with the world and intimately present to every person independent of their faith tradition. We understand creation as the outpouring of God's love into the universe. Creation reveals to us God's love, goodness, and beauty. Since all of creation, each person, animal, rock, river, and sunset reflects the goodness and beauty of God, we treat each as a brother or sister. We especially see the beauty of God in the poor and those pushed to the margins of society. Today, those include immigrants, the addicted, the homeless, the elderly, the sick, and others. We know sin and brokenness exist, but we look for the good in each person we encounter. We believe that all of creation is interdependent. We need each other. We believe that our job isn't to change people, but to love them. This doesn't mean we accept bad behavior or fail to hold people accountable, but when dealing with performance issues, we treat individuals with dignity. We believe God has given each person particular and unique gifts, and the world would not be complete without them. How are those things expressed in our work? Whether we are interacting with a coworker or a community member, everyone is welcomed as a guest and treated with dignity, compassion, and kindness. We are drawn to the particular. We tend to notice the blade of grass rather than the lawn, the student rather than the class. We focus on the particular individual in front of us and how we could best serve them. We care for creation. We have a bias for action and reach out to the poor and vulnerable. We stay in dialogue with those we disagree with and resist lectures or debates. When things go wrong, we seek reconciliation. We don't try to be self-sufficient. We rely on donors and volunteers. We accept that it is an imperfect world and don't shame people for their failings. We remember the friars and others that came before us, and we build on their good work. We reflect the beauty of the Creator and creation by manifesting beauty in our surroundings. We hope this has been helpful and that you will find personal meaning and joy in following this Franciscan way of being in the workplace and the world.